right, in this segment, we have been joined by the country's bank governor, Professor Kelfala Kalon. The bank governor is here to talk on the country's economy reforms and the redenomination currency, among other things. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Yeah, good morning.
Let's start off with why was the new notes being introduced and what's the gains of the redenominating the new loans?
Well, the new loans, we had to bring them in. It was a decision that I had made even before I was confirmed by Parliament. Simply put, money, the only value of money in an economy is in English?
Yes. Yeah, sure, go
okay. On. The only value of money in an economy is that it lubricates the economic system. It doesn't have any other intrinsic value. People accept money from you and part with something of value because they know that others will accept that same money and part with something of value. That is how money works in an economy. It's a veil, similar to the veil that women wear when they get married. The woman you meet before she wears the veil, the woman wearing the veil, and the woman you will have after she removes the veil will be the same. But we allow, although it has no intrinsic value to what the marriage is going to be like, people wear the veil because it makes the ceremony grander. Similarly, we don't need money. It is possible for me to go and give you an economics lecture and you cut my hair. But the problem there is I have to find a barber who actually wants a lecture in economics, which is going to be very rare. So what happens is that money comes in to do the same thing the veil is doing to that wedding. I give an economics lecture. They give me money. I don't have to find somebody who actually wants an economics lecture who has food to give me. I just use that money to buy food. So it lubricates the system. When money ceases to perform that role effectively because it has been debased, then the economy becomes sluggish. That is the key reason typically for redenomination. And when I have gone around the country, I have told the people of this country that the analogy that we should use when we look at redenomination is your cell phone. When you buy it newly, it works perfectly. It is fast. The battery life is as the manufacturer said it would be. You start going to websites, unknown to you, bots start attaching to your system. Now, when you turn the cell phone on, it's not only the apps that you have on, other things are working behind that you don't know about. Your cell phone slows down. Your battery life ends very quickly. And at that point, the only way you can correct that problem is to go and reset the cell phone. They take all the memory out, erase it, reinstall the factory software, and your cell phone will perform again as it was supposed to be. But if you continue doing the same thing, going to the same websites, it will slow down again. Similarly, when your money becomes debased and it becomes an inefficient medium of exchange, redenomination resets that currency, like you reset the cell phone. The impact of that redenomination on the economy will depend on whether you do the things that are right. You correct the mistakes that you made in the first time. As in the cell phone, you refuse to go to some websites so that they don't put malware on your phone will work fine. Similarly with redenomination, experience teaches us that countries that have redenominated and followed sound macroeconomic policies have achieved much benefits from it. We hope that that's what we are going to do in Sierra Leone.
Let me just ask, why the new measures? You announced a cap for withdrawals in the banks, and that has brought a lot of problem because people now go to the bank to withdraw money and there's no money at all, and there's not actually enough note circulation. One would like to ask, where are the new notes?
Well, maybe when I was a professor, I would tell you that your question itself is misdirected in the sense that the preamble is not true.
Okay.
Yes, we did put restrictions on the amount of currency that people should take out of the system. Why? Look, as I went around this country trying to sensitize the people of this country about redenomination, I told them that although I had wanted to do it from day one, when I became governor, the economic circumstances were not right. And therefore, I decided that I was going to hold off, try to achieve macroeconomic stability before I do this. And we worked on that for 2 years. In 2020, some ugly thing happened in this country. People started hoarding huge amounts of currency, to the point that most people don't know about this. We were close to a financial meltdown.
In 2020?
Yes. When people go to the banks and they don't get their money, you have a tendency for there to be a run on the banking system, where no bank keeps as much money as the deposits it has because it lends them out. So if you have a run on the banking system, you destroy the entire financial system. So we were faced with this very serious problem, which nobody can sensibly explain why anybody will hoard loans. But it happened. Initially, my response to that was, I'll just order new loans. As long as they have it in vaults, it's not in circulation, it doesn't cause inflation. So let them keep it. Let me just order new loans. I order loans at huge cost to the bank. Because of COVID, our printers could not print currency in England. They had to print it in Sri Lanka. We have to charter cargo planes to bring that money into the country. We put it out, it's gone. So, and I started actually paying for this money twice. I have paid to get it printed. It comes here, people hoard it. I don't want the system to crash. I offer them dollars again to bring the money that they have hoarded into the banking system so that at least the economy will go on.
That was what you referred to as bribe?
Yes. Central banks do that all the time. It's a cash swap.
Okay.
So I realized that within 6 to 8 months, we have spent 68.5 million on this thing. Looking at the reserves that I have, I say if we continue doing this for another 6 or 8 months, we might dissipate our reserves in such a way that if a rare emergency happens in this country, the Bank of Sierra Leone will not be able to provide the reserves to help us deal with it. So at that point, I decided, as much as the macroeconomic situation is challenging now, however, the cost of trying to keep this system going, bringing money in, people hoarding it, bringing more money, taking reserves to give it to them so that they will bring money, so that the economy will go on, this has to stop. I am going to redenominate. Now, I give you this long story simply because I'm from Kenema. And we say there is a proverb out there that a sensible man will not allow the same body of water to remove his pants twice. You know, people walk quite long distances to go from place to place. You reach a river you have never crossed. You walk through it, you don't know how deep it is, your pants get soaked. You are now ashamed to go to complete your journey, because if you go, people might actually think you urinated on yourself and so forth and so on. You stop your journey. The next time you are coming to that river, you have to have enough sense to have dry clothes on your head so that you cross. The reason for the restrictions, we started this redenomination. We introduced the new notes on July 1. By July 12th, we realized that the banks had dispensed 800 million new loans, which is 800 billion old loans. That gave us the inkling that people are beginning to hoard.
The new loan?
Yes. When I went around this country to sensitize the people of this country, they will always ask me, Governor, you said it is hoarding that's causing you to change the money. What do you have in place to ensure that it does not happen again? And I said, we have a cash management. We are going to impose a cash management policy, which is nothing new. You go to Nigeria, they have it there. You go to Ghana, they have it there. You go to the regions, they have it there. But because change is very difficult, when you bring it in, people are going to automatically feel that something wrong is happening.
Governor, are you being reactive to the market and what is happening? Did you envisage things like this to happen? I know you're a professor who understands how people behave as well. Did you not understand that things like this might happen and put things that could address them? Like she mentioned, there are people who go for 3 million loans, they're only given 1 million.
I am coming to that.
Even with students who goes there to,
I am coming to that.
Cash out their checks as well.
I'm coming to that. We have enough cash in the system. We printed, I can tell you, enough money to serve this economy if we go by historical patterns for 5 years. So there is no shortage of money in the system. What we see, this huge amount of disbursements within 2 weeks, seem to tell us that something is going on. We have planned to introduce a cash management policy together with the day we launch. I felt that it would be better for us to launch. You know, you don't accuse somebody of being drunk for just going to a bar.
But if you know the person will be drunk if he goes into that bar, you try to address it. That it doesn't come out and cause problems.
Let me finish.
So what exactly is the problem?
If you see somebody going to a bar, he might just be going to visit his friends who are drinkers. Probably he doesn't even drink. So you do not prosecute that person as a drunk for going to a bar.
But you have an experience of hoarding already.
Yes,
Governor.
let me finish. I have an experience of hoarding. And I have decided that I am going to make sure that it does not occur. First, I give you the money. I want to see, you know, economic restrictions are very difficult. But you look at what is happening, see whether the trend seems to be ominous. Don't correct something. Americans say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So within 2 weeks, when we get this data coming in, we say, we have to announce this policy that we had already designed to make sure that this happens. And let me just say this. The people, yes, when you go, there is anything that you do, there will be some teething problems. Maybe we need to make sure that we correct some of these things. What we have done so far now, all entities that require huge amounts of money, like the government agencies, NACIT, and others that have to pay huge amounts of money, we want them to come to the Bank of Sierra Leone. We will issue them the money as long as they go to their commercial bank and the commercial bank approves that they have money in their account.
For government agencies?
Yes.
What about private institutions?
Well, let me finish. Businesses that require more than the limit that we have set, you again can write a check against your bank account. You bring it to the Bank of Sierra Leone. We will honor that check pay you that money. However, if you told us that you needed this money to go and buy cacao, we want to make sure that you did it. So the next time you come, you have to tell us how you dispensed that billion that you took. This business of cash management is everywhere. It's just because we are now introducing it in Sierra Leone, it's becoming a big deal. Not because people don't see the sense in it. The average Sierra Leonean doesn't spend 30 million leons a week.
But they're not getting 2 million.
Please, let me...
No, let me just say this,
yes.
Governor. If they go for 5 million leons,
yeah,
they're not getting that at the banks.
If anybody goes for 5 million leons and they don't get it at the bank, have the bank endorse your check that you have the money in there. Take it to the post office or to the central bank. We will pay you that money and punish the bank. We have enough money in the system. What we think is happening was perhaps also a misunderstanding or a misreading of our directives by the banks. Because for us to be able to see that 800 million new loans have been dispensed in 2 weeks, some people were getting a lot more. We have also seen deposits that are alarming. And so we are not going to allow this body of water to take our pants off the second time. The people of Sierra Leone have to understand that first and foremost, having this country function is in the interest of all of us. When anything comes that is going to derail the progress of this country, some of us, we make sure that we do what we need to do, even at the expense of being unpopular, to make sure that we put the correct measures.
Quickly, Marina, before you ask, I want to ask you before I missed it. Because, Governor, will you want to let the public know? There is this understanding about there is not enough loans. Do you want to let the public know the quantum of new notes we printed?
I just told you, we have enough notes to serve this country. If we follow historical patterns, we have enough notes to serve this country for 5 years.
So there should be no panic?
There should be no panic. I have said this from day one. You don't even need to go to change your money. All you do, I go around with my old money.
Your new money?
No.
Old money.
Okay.
I spend it, it goes into the bank. It doesn't come back.
Are you
out.
monitoring the banks as well? Because the notice you sent out is very plain and clear, the amount of money they shouldn't give per account. And I was at the bank, someone wanted 5 million loans and they could not have it. And they so desperately wanted that money.
There's so much scenarios around that.
Look, there are a lot of things going on. Well, there are people in this country who have wanted to scuttle redenomination from day one. They have manufactured fake economists to come and spread this doom and gloom about redenomination. We did not listen to that noise. We persisted. We changed. The doom and gloom is not happening. So now the tactics are different. First, you saw that video that went out on the day we launched. Somebody supposedly counterfeiting the money. The people of this country ought to know that the currency we have now have the greatest security features than any currency in the history of this country. That's one.
How much did we spend to print this currency? How much is it costing us?
It is, based on what I know, it is much less than the 68 million I spent to buy currency back from the public.
50, is it around 50?
We
40?
will, when everything is over, auditors will audit the bank and the public will know. We hide nothing. Look.
But you're not saying that to the public present? You're not going to say that?
Look, from day one, I told the people of this country that I'll never lie to them. When we did not have money in the vaults, many of the people in the bank told me, don't tell the public. Let's say it's just a little problem. My colleague governors told me, it will be wrong for you to do this. You can create a financial crisis. My response to all of those people was, the people of Sierra Leone are very smart people. If they see a public official that is sincere with them, tells them the truth, whether it is good or it is bad, but also gives them an avenue and saying, I have this problem, but this is how I am going to solve it, they will follow you. So I will not sit here and say we have enough money in this country if it was not the case. But people have gotten to magnify just little things to try to create a spanner.
As a sincere public official, do you want to let the public know how much as a country we spent on?
We will let the public know. We are still spending on redenomination.
Okay.
When it's all over, the public will know. I have nothing to hide. I will tell you, based on what I know off the top of my head now, that perhaps it is less than the 68 million we spent just to buy
$68 million.
Yes.
Professor, this brings in my questions. My question. The leones keep depreciating and inflation is on the rise as well. I mean, we all know that there are global factors driving this, but domestically, what is being done, you know, in handling the depreciation of the leones and also the inflation?
Well, I think you are a little late on the news. Since we redenominated, the leone has been actually appreciating. But that's an ephemeral thing going on. Look, there are two, the cause of a currency's strength or weakness depends on the productivity of the people. We define an economy as a group of people living in a locality, usually under a government, but you can have a household economy where it's father, mother, and children, engaging in production, distribution, exchange, and consumption. You need to produce in order to sell to other people, to get foreign currency, to buy goods and services from the rest of the world. What has happened since independence is that this country and many countries in Africa, we have banished production from the meaning of economy. When I was a kid here growing up, we were getting 2/3 of our foreign exchange earnings from coffee, cacao, piassava, palm kernels, agricultural commodities, just 1/3 from mining. But the development policies that we followed, which not only us, but other African countries, we in development economics call it first city bias. We bias all development projects, all amenities to the capital city and the few headquarter towns. This created a pull factor to take people from the farms to bring them to the cities who are marginally employed, maybe selling sticks of cigarette and this, that. As a result of that, production is not taking place. When you banish production from your definition of an economy, growth becomes stagnant. So let's say this thing here is a pot of food that we have created in this economy. It's not changing. Our population is increasing. Competition for that food becomes quite fierce. And the second part of what we said, distribution, is to decide who gets what is in that basket. Because production is not taking place and people are self-interested, they are going to find all sorts of ways to try to get a bigger share of what is in that basket. That explains our corruption. That explains our bigger economy, where you see able-bodied young men on the street saying, "Bra, you babode yao." That explains a lot of ills with this economy. Because we are not producing, And we are engaging in this political entrepreneurship in order to be able to get a bigger share of the pie. We have emphasized exchange. Everybody in this country is a businessman. Nobody is producing anything, but we are all businessmen and women, each adding our own markup on prices, which causes internal factors for inflation.
You've been very honest.
And let me finish. To crown it all, we have made consumption king. Whenever a country produces less than what it consumes, it has to learn from the rest of the world. The way it does that is its currency depreciates.
I can recall at the launch, even before the president, you mentioned how people should not just think with the redenomination, everything will just change. Repeatedly, you've been saying, if we don't do things the right way and continue to do it the way we used to, nothing will change. You've repeatedly spoken about production and how it will help the economy and the country. But the situation is still the same. Production is still very low. And as a bank governor, you're introducing this policy at a time when global economy is very difficult, inflation is over 20%. Do you strongly believe, things will come in place, things will change?
Well, let me first and foremost say I'm an economist. We start out with what we call ceteris paribus, all other things being equal. I am the governor of the central bank. My job is to work on macroeconomic stability, protect the financial system. There are other people in the country whose jobs are to bring in policies to change the structure of production, create incentives for people to go back into the rural areas and increase production and all of that. But I am not going to sit down. First, I told you I would have waited. Redenomination was forced on me by this huge war.
Why not do it when we had single inflation?
Wait. The single inflation, when I came in, let me even go back. When I was nominated, before I even came in, I called the Deputy Governor Stevens, and I said, when I come, the first thing I want to do is redenominate. And at that time, inflation was like 18%. And he said, Governor, we have a lot of money in stock. The vault is full, and we have orders coming in. And because the central bank gets no seigniorage, we pay more than the value of the money we get. Let's hold on until we dissipate this money. So when I came my first 2 years, my goal was to stabilize the economy, to bring inflation down. And we continuously did that to the point that we got to single inflation. And I started bragging in our regional meetings that by the end of December 2020, we will be at 5% inflation and we will be qualified to join the ECO. And our data told us that. COVID came. The country closed down. The rest of the world closed down. All the things that some of us used to teach people about comparative advantage, that you specialize in what you do best, and then trade. The people that originated these theories, the West, started closing down their markets. We are not going to be sending rice to this place because our people need it, and so forth and so on. So the focus changed for me, which was, first and foremost, make sure that this country does not experience the sort of shortage that we were seeing on TV in the Western countries. Why? Because we're a post-conflict economy. We have 2 generations of Sierra Leoneans who know nothing but cause trouble. The war soldiers and their children.
That's us.
Our
generation.
Well, I said. So, if we allow anything like a little shortage and a skirmish, we may not have a country to protect. So at that time, my focus, and I said it very publicly, my focus is no longer going to be on inflation per se. My focus is going to be on state stability. So I established special credit facilities to make sure that food was in this country, medicine was in this country, all the things that the people of this country need, that we at least have it, even if the world price is rising, it is accessible to our people. Inflation has come in. We have demonstrated before COVID that we are able to deal with what economists call core inflation. There are two types of inflation. Core inflation is just the inflation that dealt with from domestic policy. Then there is non-core inflation, which generally deals with price rises due to things that you can't control and are volatile. Almost all economies, even in the UK, when they look at how they measure how well monetary policy is doing, they take inflation due to energy out, inflation due to food out, because these are very volatile and they are usually not under the control of the domestic policymakers. In Sierra Leone, as in a lot of small countries, our situation is even worse. If you go to a businessman now that sells rice, and they tell you that the price of rice is 400,000, and you offer to pay 399,000 leons, well, in the old, for 400 leons now. They say the rice is 400 leons. And let's say you want to pay 399 leons. Will they sell it to you?
Well, give and take. If business is difficult, they will definitely do.
Not if he knows that people are going to come and buy that rice at 400 leons. The reason he will not sell it to you is that you are such a small part of his clientele that you can stop eating rice, he can still sell all his rice.
Where are the coins?
Wait, let me. If you go and tell that businessman that you want to pay 400 leons per bag and he has 5,000 bags, will they sell it to you? 5,000 bags. You say, I'm willing to pay your price. I want all your 5,000 bags. Would they sell it to you?
Well, yes.
Yes.
They will definitely.
Because you are taking a huge chunk of their market. Similarly, in international trade, small countries are price takers. Just as when you went to that businessman, you had to pay the price they set.
Governor,
large countries have power over the price. Much of our inflation that has occurred recently is due to non-core inflation. The solution to that is for us to increase our own production, stop this reliance on food that we bring from outside when we have all of these fertile lands. That will be the long-run solution. In the short term, the central bank will do things that we believe can help ameliorate the difficulties. But the solution lies
it seems
in
I'll ask a few questions.
Okay.
I wish we have enough time to have you with this. It's been very interesting. The president mentioned the issue of getting the unbanked in the banking sector, as well as technology. And there's been this talk about switch, and now we'll get more people doing digital banking and all of it. What's the status of this switch in Sierra Leone?
The switch, inshallah, we will get it in 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
That has been one of my major focus, to make sure that we increase financial inclusion in this country, based on my own experience when I was growing up. We are also, this is why when people are all this hue and cry about cash policy and this, that, our goal is to actually move this economy away from cash, as is done in other countries. You go to, for example, East Africa, you go to a major market, say in Nairobi. The person selling their ware has a QR code. You take your phone, you scan that QR code, you pay for your wares, the money goes directly from your bank account to their bank account, so you don't have to go and stand in line to withdraw money to pay. The merchant doesn't have to go and stand in line to deposit the money. The economy works more fluently. That is what we are working toward. But to begin that, we have to have the national switch. And we would have had it almost a year ago had COVID not stopped all the supply chains. But we are close. I hope to God that we will announce to this country, maybe in 2 months or less than that, that we have the switch, and then we will be able to get you to use your card that's given to you, say, by Rokel in any bank in this country. So you don't need as much cash if you are leaving here to go to McKinney or you are leaving here to go to Kenneman. That is what we are working toward.
Marina, I want to ask a question, but quickly. Your deputy, Dr. Stevens, he led the interreligious prayer session.
Yes.
In his statement, he says, we need prayer to ensure that this project, the redenomination, succeeds. Dollar seems to be coming down, even though there's this issue about access to the people's accounts in the banks. Do you think the prayers are working? Are you happy? Are you satisfied?
Well, I think Ibrahim got that prayer thing from me. When I came, I started work on the 3rd of October 2018. And I was immediately confronted with the FI Bank issue. And one night, he and I were in my office for up to 10 o'clock. And I had made a major decision that night. And we walked toward the elevator, and I said, oh, Allah, help us. And he says, Prof, when you see a banker go to Allah, that means things are really bad. And I said, no, I'm not a banker, I'm an economist. I said, oh, no, you are the chief banker here. No, look, the tradition that most of us come from, one of the things we know in this country is that we are very religious. That's one. And I come from a tradition, the Commandees, these people who came as Islamic scholars and this, that. We don't do anything without Sarah. Whether it's for the good to be multiplied, or for the bad to be reduced. So when we talked about a national prayer, it was to say, one, we're a religious country. Two, we want the Almighty to intervene to make this thing a success. And it has been a success. The Almighty intervened to make this thing a success by making the people that He put on this land. When I went to the IMF, they were all telling me, Governor, you are doing this too quickly. My boom rang. And I said, I rely on two things. One, the competence of the people at the Bank of Sierra Leone. But two, the intelligence of the average Sierra Leonean. People underestimate it. I said, so I am going to do this within the time frame that I have said we are going to do it, and it's going to be successful. And the director of the African department said, well, Governor, I wish you luck. I said, I don't need luck. I know it is going to work.
You're satisfied that it's working, and you believe it's working?
It is working, and it will work because the people of this country know that it is good for this country. There may be detractors, and it is their right. In America, they say that every fool has to have his 15 minutes of fame. So if you want to come out there and make predictions about what is going to happen and make a fool of yourself, that's fine. I stated from day one on the job that I don't listen to noise.
Let me ask this question as we round up. Professor, is there any real-time correspondence between our fiscal and monetary policies when it comes to implementation?
Well, for those people who don't understand, fiscal policy is policies dealing with taxation and government spending. That lies with the Minister of Finance. Monetary policy deals with taking care of how money circulates in the country, price level stability, and this, that. That lies with the central bank. as much as the law wants to make sure fiscal policy is undertaken by politicians, and it is their right because they have been elected by the people to do whatever. Monetary policy is done by technocrats who by law should be apolitical. However, the governor becomes a fiscal advisor to government. So there is some, I give advice, but the decision making on fiscal policy, how much taxes they are going to impose, what they are going to spend, whether they are going to build a bridge and this and that, that is the province of the government. And as much as I insist that I get the autonomy that the law says I get, I don't want to encroach on the autonomy of other people.
But you collaborate?
Yes, we do. Because I give advice. I sit on the economic management committee.
Are they listening?
Yes. Sometimes, after a little bit of kicking.
Okay.
But the central bank has a little bit of power in terms of if the government wants to spend more than we think they should spend, and they come to us for a loan, we just charge them a higher interest rate.
Okay.
So quickly, to clear it out, you're assuring Sierra Leoneans that there is enough money for people to actually cash out or do any transactions?
If you want to take money within the restrictions that we have put, which we believe is very generous, and you can get it at your bank, have your bank endorse your check that you have money in there. Bring it to the Bank of Sierra Leone. We'll give you the notes.
Okay. Finally, what's the state of our reserve?
Your reserves.
Yeah. How? Yours too.
First and foremost, the reserves belong to the Bank of Sierra Leone. The reserves are good.
Okay. I want to ask, what's your prediction of this economy with the redenomination in the next, say, 5 years?
You know, Mark Twain once said that economists make weather forecasters respectable. You know, weather forecasters are so wrong most of the time. Mark Twain said economists make them respectable. But given that, my prediction is that economists always speak in ceteris paribus. If we go back to do the same things that we did to mess up the cell phone is going to slow down. For redenomination to have the effect that it has had on other countries, all of us in this country have to agree to do things differently. Let me dilate on this. People always say, oh, the leaders. We are doing a recruitment at the bank. And since I came to this country as governor, I have made sure that every recruitment is advertised in the newspapers, and to give everybody in this country a chance that they should apply through the post office. And if we don't have the stamped envelope from the post office, your application will not be reviewed. And we have tried to make sure that we do everything to make sure that only the most qualified people get into the bank, because it's the most technocratic institution in the country. Let me give you an example of something that just recently happened. We are hiring 50 people. We had 3,000 applicants. People who met the minimum requirements were about 1,800. So I said, okay, the one thing I want to look for in people who come into the bank is that if you have an honors degree, as the bank's requirements say, you should be able to write. Write well. So let all of these people come. Let them take a simple writing test. The question was, what 3 adjectives do people who know you best use to describe you? And how do those adjectives make you fit for employment at the Bank of Sierra Leone?
You are teaching.
No.
It's been a very interesting session this morning.
And
Thank you.
to make sure that I don't get the pressure from outside, as I did the last time we recruited, I made all of them sign a pledge. We developed IDs for them, and we told them this ID is unique to you. If you reveal it to anybody, you'll be unfit to work in this bank. And they all signed the pledge. They went. We started getting calls from patrons. Hey, my nephew has applied for this job at the bank, and so forth and so on. And given the pledge that I had made them sign, I will ask, what is that person's ID number? Oh, he said, let's not give you his ID number because he has signed a pledge that if we give you his ID number, he will be disqualified. But he wrote his name on the paper. So let's just give you his name. So even when the leader is trying to make sure that we go through a system that is fair, the people themselves are corrupting the system. That is our problem. Redenomination is not going to change that. So when we change the things that we are doing badly, and I believe we will, redenomination will work.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bank Governor, Professor Moana Kelfala Kalon. We appreciate your time. We hope you'll be making some time to come and speak to the public too, because it's important for them to understand some of the things you've mentioned this morning. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much. I think if history is correct, I am one of the governors that has been most accessible to the press.
Yes, I agree.
Exactly.
Because as a professor teaching money and banking, I used to tell my students that central bankers have a lot of power over people's lives, but they were not elected by the people. And therefore, the central banker has to be accountable to the people by making sure that he or she explains his policies to the public. Even when they disagree with those policies, he should explain the rationale for it and then let the policy ride.
Thank you.
So I thank you for inviting me here. It's been a pleasure.
It has been some economic and banking lectures too. But thanks for joining us this morning.